We heard that the war is being prepared. We all hoped it would not happen because we knew it would affect all of us. My name is Konrad Laszczak. I'm Polish. I was born and raised in Poland. Russia, as the government, not Russians, is something that we don't want. Having Ukraine being attacked, having our history being under Russians' dictator, we could already feel and understand the pain they're going through. We concentrate as different countries and their governments to help with money and weapons, but sometimes we forget that smallest things like a toothbrush, a can of meat, dry clothes, a blanket is necessary for the ones that stay in Ukraine to go day by day and be able to still stay there and defend their country. Your involvement is much more appreciated than ours because we're obliged to. You're not. We're then next to the border. We should open the borders, accept the refugees and help them. That's expected of a neighbor. And I'm talking about, again, ethics. You guys are sitting way, way behind that ocean and you're still helping. And we appreciate this. We meaning Ukrainians. That's something that you should be proud of. There are pictures, there are movies that you can see how people react when they receive help. But I think fuel for every person to continue with help are the faces, sometimes words, sometimes tears. So basically the memories that stay with you are the ones that are helping you to continue with help. My message to the world would be start as small as possible, but do something. Do something. Do something.
Ukraine sits between two, historical bullies, Germany and Russia. People have felt bullied and, they haven't really been able to be themselves because they've always been oppressed. That impacts a people and a culture. It's a continued story that what's happening in Ukraine right now has happened many times in the past.
My husband met some Ukrainian women before this war started. And when the war started, they fled, and we connected with Natalia specifically, and she fled with her children and godchildren. We saw that they were only leaving with a few items, a bag full of a change of clothes, and we were on a Zoom call with her, and my husband said, "Your kids have nothing of comfort. My wife's a quilt maker. Could we send you a quilt just to show that we care about you, we see you?" And she was overcome with emotion and started crying and was just in awe that an American would care about a Ukrainian.
When we crossed the border, I clearly remember this emotion because all of a sudden you needed to sort of to have a different role in your life and to have a different identity, I would say. I'm a refugee, right? And it's different. Yeah, it's just like transforming your identity.
I contacted Beth, who's my quilty friend that we've known each other for a long time and have been on many adventures together.
When this need arose and we had an opportunity to help someone through quilting, we thought we could gather a few quilts, maybe 100 or so, and help some refugees that we had connections with.
On March 16th of 2022, we put it out there on our social media. On March 17th, we had quilts on my front porch, and every single day since, we've received donations of quilts.
I think what this experience has taught Ukrainians is the world has cared about Ukraine and showed up to help them support, their cause. And I'm not sure they knew that 2 years ago. They probably didn't feel like anyone in the world cared much about Ukraine. Feeling the world's support for a country that wants to have its own destiny and be able to choose what it wants to be I hope the world cares about that and wants to support anybody or any country that wants to achieve that.
The first time we came to Poland, we initially went to the border of Ukraine and Poland and drove there, went with a Ukrainian woman who was a refugee herself. She translated for us, she drove us in her car, and we literally just had bags of quilts, went to the train station, and just saw the shock, the kind of the blank stares, the trauma that mostly women and children had as they were literally getting off the train or standing in a line with their kids, waiting for some services and help. There were a lot of tents and services there, and we just kind of shyly at first approached, with Masha, who was translating for us, and just started handing out quilts to kids. And then when the kids got excited about it, then it kind of became just a joyful moment.
Our vision expanded to developing and setting up sewing centers. And so we bought 30 sewing machines and taught some sewing skills to some refugee women. Our expectation was that we were going to teach them a skill and then they could go home and use our machines and make items to sell. Our expectations were changed as we got to know these women and realized that what they really needed was the satisfaction of being creative and escaping in their head from the war.
We're super grateful for the response from quilters. It's been overwhelming, and what's surprised us is how grateful the quilters have been to participate.
We put out on our Facebook, adopt a sewing machine, and for about $300 we can buy these sewing machines and rotary cutters and scissors and the basic supplies, and in a matter of days we received enough money to buy our first 15 machines. People kind of get on board once they see what we're doing. These women can earn a sewing machine to take home to own, and this woman took hers back to Ukraine and they started making camo outfits for their soldiers, and then they asked us if they could have 3 more machines, and so we gave them 3 more machines. And then we have these women who are sewing, literally, I think it's grass.
They're ghillie suits, so it's burlap and twine. And they look like a bush. And when they're laying, they're really...
So they're making these camo outfits, but they were sending them to the soldiers to wear so they can, look like a bush and then fight. And so now those machines that people paid for are now being used to save lives with people in the war. So that was unexpected and amazing.
The QR code has helped quilters see where their quilts are going. It's helped them connect with Ukrainians. That's been powerful because connecting humans, that are so far away in such different circumstances has really helped what we've become. We're so grateful for quilters who are willing to share their talents and their time and their resources to help anyone. In this case, it's Ukrainians, but 5 years from now, it could be someone else, different country, could be our country. But their willingness to share their talents and their time and resources to care for someone, I'm just grateful that we have people like that. They have a sense for what holding a family together in a difficult time is, and I think they've wanted to help. They weren't sure how, and our organization has given them a way to not only share what they do and what they're good at, which is this creativity of quilting, but also feel that they can see the result by the QR code, letting people contact them and share their gratitude to them. We've got a distribution to get quilts to whomever needs love, care, and comfort, whether it's Ukraine or whatever, Syria and Turkey from the earthquake or something else that comes up, either internationally or locally for us. And we just need to increase the levels of access we have to more quilts. We know there's a lot of quilts and a lot of quilt shops that don't really know about us, so we're working on trying to create this network of quilt shops that people can drop quilts off, and then we can subsidize the shipping so they can get quilts to us.
My heart is with you, and I love you all. And I'm very much grateful that I am here, that you are together with me in such moments. And I wish you long, long years of prosperity, health, and happiness.
И чтобы ваши сердца всегда были полны любви к людям, и чтобы они вам отвечали взаимностью.
And I wish all your hearts be fulfilled with joy and happiness, and be good forever, and get happy. And thank you for you. And thank you that you are such kind of people.
When the war broke out and you saw it on the news and you just felt like you needed to do something, and this is an avenue. I'm a quilter, I enjoy quilting, and through that hobby I'm able to make these quilts and hopefully show them a little love through giving them the quilts.
Like a day is what separates the possibility of us being in this situation, that any of us could be this person who is dealing with this refugee situation right now.
Just hearing about people being displaced and being separated from their families, and I just love the idea of sending over these quilts. It's like a little hug. It's like sending over a little love.
It's not a question of giving money. Anybody can give money. We can all do it. But it's finding a way to help them morally and to help them to be able to lift their spirits up.
My sister-in-law, Nicole Bolt, told me about it, and it seemed like a very worthwhile project. Sometimes I get tired of just throwing money at different charities and never feeling as if I have any part in what happens, but I much prefer to be personally involved because it gives me the same feeling that I can make a difference in the world.
You meet people and you learn their stories, and you think you know their stories. You don't know their stories. And that's part of why you come. You want to learn about the people and what can you do to make a better story for them in the future.
Working with the refugees here, it really brought to light that that could be me. They're just normal people doing their thing. And they just got put in a hard place, and they're making the best of it.
I had donated a quilt to Wrap Ukraine with Quilts in Utah, and they must have sent the invitation out to everyone who had ever donated a quilt, and I saw it, and I told my husband, this is a great trip. It combines my love of quilting with humanitarian work.
I learned about it through the Houston Quilt Show. I went to the quilt show last fall, and that's where I was introduced to the quilts for Ukraine. I was excited about coming along because you hand the quilts to the receiver. You get to meet who gets your quilt.
No, I feel bad for the people. I've asked my husband, I said, how do you go through this? I don't know how we would do it. My mother went through World War II in Okinawa, and she talked a little bit about it. I just can't imagine going through what she did or what these people are going through.
What can I do as a person that feels so lucky and has many opportunities to help them to make their life hopefully at least happy for the day and have wonderful memories for their future? It's about the giving and the sharing for me.
I hope to have a true feeling of what these women are going through. And I think about them when I make the quilts, but I could only feel it from afar.
I thought of my friends back home and what would each of them do if we got bombed or attacked and had to leave our country and leave our husbands behind and take our children with us and try to make a living in a new country where we didn't speak the language, and it just kind of hurt the heart.
Chatter that you just see on Instagram or whatever, like, oh, this is all fake, there's not even a real thing, and it's very real. It's a real event. People's lives are really actually being affected, and it's destroying lives.
They're so traumatized by the war and their beautiful country being destroyed, and so by us coming and showing them a little bit of love, I think that I'm hoping it made a difference. It sure made a difference in my life.
We support you and know that there is a long road of healing ahead and there's much that's required, but I, as one single person, will do what I can do, and I know many others who are willing to do the same.
You know, coming to do some service and interacting with people, and I come to do that, but I know I'm going to leave with more. So I'm going to leave with that good feeling of that was better for me.
There's hope. Most people are behind them. We hate the dictatorship that Putin does, and it will be resolved.
And then you look back on things you know about World War II and the Polish ghetto and what these people went through. And so now there we are in the center of town walking around, and they lived it. They lived it. And so that's kind of, it hits you in the heart.
After working with the people that I've met, the very few that I've been able to meet, I would just say hang in there. Hang in there. Continue on. Move forward every day. Just do what you need to do to survive. And it will get better. It will get better.
A lot of the world is helping them, and I hope that they continue to help them until this is over, and I hope it's over soon.
That the American people care. The world cares. We think about you a lot. I think, speaking for myself, I think about you guys a lot and the situation. And I hope it ends soon.
Sometimes it's better to do your very, very best to walk the talk, to try. Nobody's perfect at it, but people can teach us what they need because maybe we haven't thought that's what they need. I didn't know you just needed the hug versus something else, or the touch versus how that kindness is shown in so many different ways. There's so many ways to show it that sometimes a person can teach you that more than you'll ever know.
A lot of people care about what's going on, and we really feel bad about what is happening. Yeah, I hope they have. Hope they have hope.
I would want them to hope that they can acquire some skills, use the opportunity now to make themselves feel independent and empowered.
But I think the importance of that I've learned from this is it's not just in the U.S. that there's service, and so that where people want to serve each other. I loved how the Polish people, they've dug in and they're helping. And Harry, who has gone out and has his restaurant where he's supporting the Ukrainians, and they're taking quilts into the Ukraine so that, and risking their lives to do that. I think that mankind wants to help each other. Our goal, our deep down, most people want to help other people. And to me, I've just seen that it's across the board. It's not just in my little neck of the woods where I see it happen all the time. It's like I know it goes on all over, but you don't really think about it. And seeing all of Poland digging in and just saying we can't, it's happened to us before. We know what it feels like, and we've got to be there to help the Ukrainians. And I think that if you know that somebody's thinking about you and is caring about you, it's easy to have hope when you know that there's others on your side. It's when all help stops and there's no service going on, or you feel like you've been forgotten. It would be easy to just give up and not lose hope.
We'd like to introduce our team. First of all, this is Conrad and his wife Magda.
Hi.
He is a destination management company. He took care of us like no other, and we appreciate all he did. They have done all the logistics, all the planning, all the pickups, all the hotel, all the food, all the everything. If you need anything that we can't help you with, they will help you. We also brought our husbands. Hal's my husband, and Dwayne is Beth's husband, and they have been supportive the whole way. The three of us have been the founders of this organization. We have Tamra White right here and Jan Craze. They also have signed up to help us do many, many things, including fundraising and organizing, and they are our team leaders for this event. So I'm going to turn it over to Hal.
I want you to know that this invitation that you're here, that you've accepted from us and trusted us, we're extending this trust back to you because we don't want you to feel, honestly, like a guest. We want you to feel like you're part of this. And in the next couple of days, you're going to be helping people, interacting with people. You won't know you won't be able to speak to them, maybe, but we'll have, Natalia will be here on Monday. She will translate. Masha speaks some English. But Harry, stand up because we want to, this is Harry. This is the famous Harry. You want to get to know Harry and his story. It's incredible. He's one of the great human beings that walked the earth. We're lucky to have met him. He's changed this for us because he has known where the refugees were because he's fed them. And he's introduced us to the people who have let us find the refugees. Then he took us to refugee centers and we were able to meet refugees. We went to the border and cooked food. I worked for Masha. She was my boss. She probably said, "Where'd you get this guy? He has no idea how to cook." We'd had some challenges giving quilts away because these refugee women were fearful, very fearful of who we were, and we weren't getting the quilts to where we wanted to get them. So at the end of the day, this big giant warehouse, I mean, think of Costco empty and just cots. That's what it was. And I asked her if she would go in and help give these quilts away. And she said, absolutely. And she walked in and got down on her knees and looked, to these women, these refugee women on these cots, looked them eye to eye, and said that Americana Shemamas, that's the only thing I understood of all the Ukrainians who spoke. Americana Shemamas, and I guess that meant American mothers have made this quilt, these quilts for you and your children. And then we saw the tears come to people. And so Masha really opened that door for us and now is managing the sewing centers that we have here and drives an hour here to do that on the weekends. So Masha, please stand up. So these people are part of the original, this is part of the origin story. We met them in April 13 months ago, and it took off. But thank you guys for being here and for being such a critical part of the success that we've found.
On every interview we ever give, what we always say is quilters are givers. Maybe it's because we love to make quilts and we have too many quilts, and finally we have a place that we can give them because our kids don't want any more and our grandkids don't need any more. But we have had so much gratitude. Of course, we thought the people receiving the quilts would be grateful, and they are. But we've had so much gratitude from the people who have given us quilts and said, thank you for providing an avenue for us to give of our talents. And now I can help somebody else by sewing. I kind of found this amazing purpose. So thanks for joining us.
You ate a pan of biscuits, a pot of kidney stew. You drank a gallon of milk, you ate a pound cake too. A skillet of liver, a dozen of eggs, 12 hot dogs and 8 broad legs. You know you eat too much. Yes, you eat too much. You know you eat too much. And one of these days will get you down. A pound of bologna, a gallon of ice cream too. You ate the sole off my left shoe. You started in the kitchen and ended in the hall. You chewed up the rug and ate the paper off the wall. You know you eat too much. Yes, you eat too much. You know you eat too much. And one of these days will get you down. Go have
Because I want to eat the thing.
Last night and a ham today. You ate a sack of beans with no delay. You had neck bones and rice, pig feet and greens. I wonder, do you know what a diet really means? You know you eat too much. Yes, you eat too much. You know you eat too much. And one of these days it'll get you down.
My ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, 4 bells tell us it's a full hour. Okay? We don't need a watch in Krakow. Then 12 bells to tell us it's 12. When the bells are over, this window will open. When he finishes, let's do some applause. Let's wave to him. Remember, we're going live. It's a live transmission right now because it's moving. The window's opening. Enjoy.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are going downstairs to the depth of 130 meters.
It's story time!
There's just a couple stories I think I'd love to share with you about people who have been giving us quilts. We had a quilt group in Utah who met once a month and made quilts for charity. And they decided as a group that they wanted to make us 100 quilts. And so they decided instead of meeting once a month, they were going to meet once a week and make us 100 quilts. And so as they drove those down, we talked and took pictures with them. And this woman, a grandma lady, probably in her 80s, she tapped me on the shoulder and she says, I want to talk to you. And so we walked over to the side and she said, see those ladies there? And I said, yeah. She goes, once a month they would come to my door, they'd knock on my door and they'd say, you need to come to quilting class with us. And she says, I'm a recent widow and I know that they were just trying to be kind. She says, I don't like to sew and I don't like to quilt, but I would go with them. Then they meet you, and now they're coming to my door once a week. And I'm going to quilting and sewing class with them once a week. And let me tell you what happened. I became friends. I have someone to go to lunch with, and I have a reason to get out of bed. And so you have changed my life. Who saw, we were on the news, and he saw it on the news. He was not a quilter. His wife was not a quilter. And he decided that he wanted to donate 100 quilts. And he knew someone that lived about 6 hours away from him that was a quilter. And so he contacted her and he said, I want to pay you a few $1,000s to make 100 quilts for me to donate to this charity. And he says, I feel like I was supporting her and her quilting business. I had the money to buy the supplies, but I didn't know how to quilt. And so she was the answer to my prayer, and you're the answer to my prayer to be able to provide these quilts for these Ukrainian refugees. He also told me, I'll have them to you in 2 weeks. And I said, thank you very much. And after I hung up the phone, I said, yeah, he has no idea how long it's going to take to make 100 quilts. 2 weeks later, he called me. He had drove the 6 hours to pick up these quilts that this lady had made. He realized how many there were. He then had to rent a trailer, picked up these quilts, drove them to my house, and not only did he do the 100, and several other women donated, he brought 200 items, 200 quilts.
We got a letter from, it was addressed to me and our organization, but it was from the Utah Department of Corrections. It was from an inmate who led a craft group in the prison. He had been incarcerated for a number of years, and he asked if his group could help, and they crocheted. So they, we wrote him back, and everything was by letter. Things were crossed out, just like you expect from a prison. But so he and his group crocheted baby blankets, and I don't know how many they donated.
Stuffed animals.
And stuffed
like
animals.
Over 150.
Yeah, and 2 corrections officers showed up on Gina's porch one day with all of these things that inmates had made for Ukrainian refugees, and also a check for $30, which was from this man who had initially contacted us. That was half of his earnings in prison for the month, and he continued to donate $30 a month from his paycheck to go towards efforts in getting the quilts there and the blankets there. That was just amazing that it reached him, probably from a news blip on TV that he saw. We also got a letter back from a Ukrainian soldier with a photo. He's laying in his bunker with his hot pink and white quilt behind his head, and it was a couple pages, this email from him, and he said that his unit had received a stack of quilts, and so every soldier got a quilt, and that what a comfort that was to them. This was in the winter, they were cold, and it was not only a physical comfort, but just the support and care and love that they felt from the American people that had made these quilts just boosted their morale, and that was really touching for us. We knew that some of our quilts were getting into Ukraine through some channels, but that was really cool.
We feel like we have been blessed. We've also been prompted and guided in a spiritual sense to do some of the things that we've done. We had a woman who regularly was bringing us quilts, a couple quilts a week, and then she said, listen, I brought about 20 quilts, but fabric is very expensive, and I'm not going to be able to, I've used all my stash, I've used all my fabric, but, I wish you well because I love your organization. And she says, but I just can't afford on my budget to buy more fabric. And I gave her a hug and I told her thank you. The next day, on my porch, 5 boxes of fabric. We did not ask anybody for fabric. Just someone donated 5 boxes of fabric, and I called her up and I said, I don't think you're done yet. She came, got all the fabric, and she's now donated 260 quilts. So little things like that happen over and over again, and we're just, you don't realize kind of the little mini miracles that are happening until you step back and you're like, wait, how did we get on TV? How did we won an award and won $3,000? How did that happen? None of that we could have planned. We could have said, if we could get on a magazine, or if we could get on a podcast, or if we could, and then we had a television show, come to Poland and film an episode. I mean, all of that stuff not planned, but happened. So it's a lot of series of miracles and hard work too, but just that have happened to help us help others.